Hello, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm glad to see you guys. And also glad to see that you guys are chatting and it looks like you're looking forward to this conversation tonight. So that's really good to see. I hope you guys are having a good Friday. I really and honestly feel like I've been doing nothing today but working. So I literally just came through the door and I'm like, I gotta get to YouTube because everybody's waiting on this. There was a lot of people when I put out the information that I was going to talk about emotional vampires tonight. There were a lot of you who contacted me behind the scenes, and you were so excited. So, um, I certainly want to jump into this conversation and get us started. Everything looks good on my end, so let me just start breaking down some ideas about emotional vampires. If you can take a few minutes to kind of think over your week this week. And I know I can do this, but let's see if you can as well. Let's see who comes to mind. Think about the last few days, Monday to today. Were you in communication with a family member, a relationship partner, a friend, neighbor, boss, coworker, who at the moment you start talking to them and they start talking to you, you just became exhausted? Can you think of at least one person who did that to you this week? Just having that communication with them drain the life out of you. I know I can think about a couple of people in both my personal and professional life. It's a paradigm. It's a enigma that we experience, I think, in our lives more than we think. And yet we never look at the reality that we are spirits communicating with spirits, right? We're spirits communicating with spirits. We're personalities communicating with personalities. We are brains communicating with other brains. And because of that, we are subjected to, somebody just said my older brother. I had to look at that. Kat Sushi, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I just looked over. That's why I try not to look at my screen while I'm doing the introduction. Your brother. Okay, I'll just self-disclose and say my younger brother was a part of that whole thing. I was just thinking in my mind, a few people come to mind, he was a part of that. So you and I share that, our siblings, right? My older brother, not so much. My younger brother, he's like 30, 31, and he just feels like I'm grown, and he tires me out sometimes. But anyway, let me get back on track, Kat Sushi. So what was I saying? I feel like I should never look at the chat box, and I'm trying to, introduce this whole topic to you guys. Let me just start from a different place, okay? That these individuals, because we are, here it comes, I remember now, because we are spirits communicating with spirits, brains communicating with brains, and personalities communicating with personalities, we fail to recognize that because of that reality, we are often kind of, in a way, we are becoming subjected to, I'll put it that way, some kind of what we call emotional contagion. We kind of take on the burdens, the baggage, the thoughts, feelings, behaviors, emotions, all of that, the belief systems, the morals and the values of those people who we communicate with. And it may not be a conscious thing, right? It may be very unconscious or very subconscious. Something's happening, but you just don't know how to fit the puzzles together, right? Anytime I run into, let's say, somebody that I went to college with, which was over 15 years ago, if I run into a college mate and they're like, oh my God, so good to see you. I saw you on YouTube, and oh my God, you have just been amazing in my daughter's life. She talks about you in school, and you are so successful, and I cannot believe I sat next to you in college. I knew you had some. And she's just yap, 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 yap. Is it humbling? Yes. That she really respects my profession and what I do. Is it really um, joyous for me to see someone that I haven't seen for many years, and here we are, we bump into each other and we can kind of catch up on each other's lives? Yeah, yeah. But if you're an introvert like me and you get your energy from being by yourself, and you don't like surprises like me, and you get drained by ingenuity, inauthenticity, and you really are a private, quiet person who observes life, that's not going to be a good experience for you, right? For me, it feels like overload. And somebody like that is really sweet and gracious and kind. But then you can walk away from them feeling tired, drained, ready to turn your car around and go back home and go to bed. And it doesn't necessarily have to be because they're giving you bad vibes. It doesn't have to necessarily be that you don't like them, or vice versa. And it most certainly doesn't have to be the fact that you don't like, being surprised or running into people that you used to know. This is a example too that you can pull from yourself for yourself. But it could just be the reality that something about her I pick up on. And that could be loneliness, sadness, depression, fear, anxiety, feeling burdened by being a mother, right? Not really being interconnected with her husband and not knowing which way to go and considering divorce, struggling financially, right? Not knowing how I'm going to perceive her based on where she is in her life, right? So we pick up on all of those things when we meet with someone, we bump into them, we talk to them, we experience them. Think about the experience of a therapist. I come across many people a week, sometimes 30 to 40 clients a week. Recently it's been 45 or less clients a week. And what happens in each of those exchanges, and sometimes back to back appointments, it has to be that way in order to get 40 people in during the week. But even in those sessions, my emotions are, I'm giving you an example from my career now. And why? Because Barbara over there was having a nervous breakdown the other day and needs to be hospitalized. I feel disappointed. I feel sad for her. I feel helpless. I want to be the best clinician and therapist for her. And yet she's slipping in her life and I don't know what to do about it. I'm trying, but I don't know what's tripping her up, right? So Barbara over there is having a problem. Jim over there is considering a divorce. Kayla over there is 15 and considering suicide. Bobby over here is 14 years old and doesn't know how he's going to tell his parents he doesn't want to go off to college. Timmy over there is 5 years old and is going into the foster care system. And so my emotions are like this during the week, right? So you can imagine how a therapist can take on the burdens of the client, right? The very same thing can happen to you with your family, your friends, your coworkers, and even your boss. And you could be picking up on and taking in all those things that your boss is carrying, and all those things that your cousin is carrying, and your father and your mother are carrying, your sibling. And you can, without really knowing you're doing it, ingest that, internalize that, and something's going to happen. You're either going to implode or explode, right? And that's not a very good thing. Now, let's jump in to some terminology because I know you guys love the terminology. I think it really gives meaning to what you're experiencing. So, what do these emotional vampires actually do to us? Well, let's start with cognitive resources. We all have cognitive resources. Those are basically our ability to juggle multiple things throughout the day. It's our executive functioning. It's our ability to process things. It's our ability to make decisions and hold our impulses back and make the right decisions. Emotional vampires, people who suck the energy out of you. Sometimes in one exchange, multiple exchanges, even a text message and an email. Sometimes I open up email, okay, and I'll get a 50-page email and I just sit there like, oh my God. Okay, take some deep breaths. I cannot read all of this right now. And sometimes I skim and I have to go back, right? Because all of my cognitive resources are being depleted by this person. Cognitive resources, my ability to make decisions, right? Your ability to make wise decisions and not be impulsive, your ability to control your actions, also process what's best, what's not best. It helps you be rational, your executive functioning. It kind of helps you decide between two different alternatives. It's that ability to really engage in life in a cognitive, cerebral way. And emotional vampires really do deplete you or steal from you the ability to process. They deplete you of your cognitive resources. That is why they are emotional or energy vampires. Now, there's this whole concept, guys, of contagion, and that's actually a scientific psychological term. There's something known as emotional contagion, and there's also something known as suicide contagion. Now, let me explain emotional contagion, because this is what you likely experience with your family members and, your boss, your friends, people all around you. Emotional contagion is really triggered by social interactions. It's triggered by your interaction with your neighbor, triggered by your interaction at work, triggered by your interaction with your therapist. It's triggered by all of your interactions in your daily life. Emotional contagion is really a connection between the mind and the body. And what happens is whatever emotional experience your mother is having this morning, and she's narcissistic, so her emotions are big, right? And her emotions take over your emotions, over your mind. You don't have any room to say anything in the whole entire phone call or conversation. Um, you may even find yourself feeling really confused and perplexed by her, because she's coming to you with all these things, and she's yelling and she's screaming and she's frustrated, and you don't know how to get in and say, Mom, just wait, let me give you some ideas, because she's coming from that situation to the next situation, to her neighbor that annoyed her this morning, to the frustrating things your brother and your dad does to her. And so there you are, sitting in that conversation trying to figure out, how do I manage her in this, right? And so what happens to you? Well, your fight or flight system kicks in, right? Because emotional contagion is this. You are actually taking on the emotions and the really intense emotional reactions of your mother. And so now her emotions have become contagious, and now her emotions now become your emotions, or they trigger new emotions. It's that mind body connection, and it's very interconnected. So your fight or flight mode gets kicked off. Your sympathetic nervous system gets kicked off. That's kind of like the gas pedal that we all have within us when something is a threat to us. Once the brain identifies something as a threat, and that could be your narcissistic mother calling you to complain about something, the brain says, oh my God, something's happening. And a specific part of the brain is the amygdala. That gets kicked off. It's that little almond-sized structure in the middle of the brain. I talk about this all the time, so you know. And that is the emotional center of the brain. And that little almond-sized structure is powerful, because when something is threatening in our environment, it communicates with the brain, and it communicates with neurotransmitters, which are those chemicals that are floating around in our brain. And it connects to cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And all of that kicks off the fight or flight system. And there you are in the middle, sometimes, of a panic attack, right? You are feeling shaky and nervous, and you don't know why. You feel like that person is yelling and screaming at you, even though they're talking in a low tone, right? But when your brain and your body gets kicked off in a way that's in protective mode, everything just seems extra loud. I have kids that I'm seeing for therapy who have autism spectrum disorder. They have really intense social anxiety, social phobias, OCD. And when they are overwhelmed emotionally, the first thing they say to me often is, Miss Tamara, I feel like the lights are really bright. I feel like things are really yelling at me. I feel really overstimulated. And that's when they know. And I often tell them that is when you know that you are in a bad place. Your body is in fight or flight mode. And so emotion contagion kicks off that same reaction within you. It can kick off that same reaction. Everything is loud. Everything is destabilizing for you. Everything is just too much. And your body goes into hyperarousal. And it's really hard to get out of that zone. Now, let me also say, with emotion contagion is what we call facial mimicry. Facial mimicry. And if you are doing, let's say, a FaceTime call with your mom, this narcissistic mother, or, you can meet up with your mom for lunch, or she knocks on your door and comes to your house, you observing her facial expressions can actually cause you to take on what she's feeling. So if she's frowning, most likely you're frowning, right? Excuse me, if she's angry and you could see it on her face, you may notice some tension in your own face, right? Facial mimicry is contagious because we have what's called mirror neurons. Excuse me. And those mirror neurons within us mirrors what the other person is displaying. And so mirror neuron says, oh, so she's frowning, she's angry, her face is tense. You do the same thing. And so that facial mimicry, the I want to give you another word for this. The I'm just going to keep it at the facial mimicry, the vocal tones, and the neurophysiological reactions of your mom can then become a burden to you. And so then you're feeling and thinking and behaving sometimes in the very same way. Once mom leaves, for example, then what happens to you? Well, you can do many things. You can become emotionally distraught yourself. You can feel drained and exhausted. You can feel overwhelmed and overstimulated. You can even go into having a panic attack yourself because that emotional vampire called your mom, your narcissistic mother, is draining the life out of you. And all you know to do is nap, get on your phone, tune out, go do something else. Some people go for a jog. Some people, go eat something, right? And that may or may not help you because the whole idea of emotion contagion is that that person's contagious emotions have now taken you over. And that's really what suicide contagion is all about as well. It's this idea that you've been exposed to somebody's suicidal thoughts. You've been exposed to somebody's self-injurious thoughts and behaviors. You've been exposed to somebody's pessimistic, I don't want to live thoughts. And then it can take over the way that you think and feel about your own life. So it is most definitely contagious. And this is what gets us more than we think it does. It's really an insidious evil, right? Because we think we can just hang out with people and talk with people and engage with people and we're okay as long as we're okay and our mood is okay. But the reality is, no, that's not how it really goes. Because whatever you are in the midst of, you take on, right? Some people are like sponges. I'm like that. I can pick up on a room. I can read a room. I can read a person. Sometimes I can even read a person without looking at them. Sometimes I can read them better by not even looking at them. I've been in social situations where, I see somebody in my periphery and I can tell that I either want my phone number or they're going to be a problem for me. And so I can then move to another space or, do what I need to do to get away. So, we pick up on rooms and we pick up on energy and we pick up on spirits and we pick up on mentalities, and it really can infect us or affect us, more than we think it can. Now, let me also say the research in psychology suggests that high demand personalities is also a really big problem for us, and we can take on their highly intense emotions, we call them high demand personalities, just highly demanding. I demand your attention. I demand your emotions. I demand your focus. Don't look at your phone. Don't look over there. Don't get a drink of water. Pay attention to me. And those kind of individuals can drain the life out of you, right? Because all they want is your attention and they are highly demanding. And if you don't give them your attention, then you're ignoring them. You're a bad person. You're not giving them the attention they deserve. It becomes this whole big thing. You can also think of the high demand personality as the high conflict personality, where the individual just doesn't have a problem getting into arguments and fights, right? Let's say, for example, your dad, he's a high demand personality and a high conflict personality. And so he may go into a Target or a Walmart, for example, and not get exactly what, the coupon said he would get in the paper. And, he's going to flip the whole store upside down because the manager hasn't come yet. He's tired of standing in line, right? And he enjoys a good fight. So he's high conflict and he's high demand. And being around this kind of a personality can really drain you. When he gets back in the car after getting what he thinks he deserved, he's probably telling you all about it. This is an example. He's telling you all about it. He's really letting his emotions show, and he's showing you how frustrated he is about it. And you get out of the car and you feel exhausted. Why? Because you have now taken on dad's high demand and high conflict personality. You've taken on all the emotions from that, and you're tired. Can these individuals, these emotional vampires, be narcissistic? 102%. Yes, they can. They engage in grandiosity, right? They aggrandize themselves. They minimize everybody else. And they think that their opinion is fact. They think everybody should bend to cater to them. Oh, it gets worse. It gets bad, right? We can also see these individuals are sociopaths. They tend to be very cold, very so when it comes to how they treat you. One minute they're with you, next minute they're not. They're like a fair weather friend, and their up and down moodiness can just drain the life out of you. They tend to be very ingenuine because they're not in touch with their true emotions. So sociopaths and narcissists can most definitely be emotional vampires. So these people are tiring, right, guys? Right? You can imagine, being that I'm an introvert, I can be social when I need to. I can seem extroverted, but I'm really an introvert. When the lights and the cameras go off and the clients leave the office, I'm quiet. I want to read. I want to take a bath. I want to eat. I want to talk to my family. I want to talk to my mom. I want to watch some Judge Judy with my brother and my mom, since that's their favorite thing to do. I want to go out in the backyard and do some gardening. I want to look at the birds. I want to go get some coffee and just sit and listen to NPR radio, and, the list goes on. So that's me. I'm sure you can imagine, by the end of my week, after seeing 40 plus or minus clients and having to go grocery shopping and having to go to Lowe's and make a couple of stops and care for my mom, and, those things that we do, right? I guess you can imagine that by the end of the week, when it comes to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't want to do a thing because I've been drained from all the emotional vampires in my life, right? And so you can very much agree to that. By the time you get to Monday, nobody wants to really deal with Monday. Tuesday is really like the beginning of the week for most people, because Monday we're just too tired to really know what the heck we're doing. So Tuesday hits and then go all the way into Friday. Can you imagine those people who party and live it up on the weekends? They are probably really exhausted, right? And too tired for Monday, because they've been around a million emotional vampires. So this is the conversation, guys. I see you chatting it up in the chat box. Let me get to the chat box, okay? Here's what we're going to briefly talk about tonight, and I'm hoping to wrap up by 8:25, 8:30. I don't know. We're going to try to make it. We're going to talk about common issues with these family members, with these relationship partners, bosses, co-workers, friends, neighbors. Oh my God. Emotional vampires and neighbors. I used to have them. And I used to look at my neighbors and I would smile and keep going. One time my neighbor stopped me and said, "You are always on the go." And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I live a busy life, but I really appreciate you for getting my mail the other day. Thank you so much. Tell Sophie I said hello. Tell your husband I said hello. And I'm like running back to my car because technically I have to get back to work. And she's like, yeah, we'll see you later. I want to tell you about something that happened to me on Friday and Saturday. I want to get your opinion because I need a therapist view. And I get in the car and I'm like, oh my God, please help me. Those kind of situations. So we're going to talk about common issues that you can possibly have with these kind of emotional vampires. I'm going to give you a little bit of research, literally scratching the surface of research. And then I'm going to tell you how this impacts you and why these people drain you. Okay. And I used to be this way. I learned a long time ago when I hit 33. I think that was when I learned that I've got to change how I communicate with people. And I've got to change how much energy I allow them to take from me. So, we're going to look at what's wrong here and why you feel this way. Okay, guys, let me go to the chat box and see what you guys are saying. Pink Meadows, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Glad to have you back. So glad to see you. I never can say your name correctly. Should I say, I don't want to say Jesus because I know it's not. Is it Zeus? Elsevier? Please correct me. But it's so good to see you. I really appreciate you and all my live chats, all my comments. So glad to see you. Welcome. eClone Jitto 99, where have you been, my friend? Good to see you. Laura Fit, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Jitto. Let me go back here for a second. Bear with me, guys. YouTube and I are having a moment. Why can't I get you out of here? Okay. For some reason, my mouse is being a real pain right now. Okay. I don't know if I can go back up to your comment. Jitto. I'm trying. I have no idea what's happening with my mouse. So I'm going to keep going. Francophile Poutine, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Sun and Sunflowers, good to see you as well. Welcome back tonight. Breezy, trying to figure it out. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. MN Odell, good to see you as well. Welcome back. James McDonald says, looking forward to this much needed topic and discussion, Tamara. That's so good to hear and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Bossy Truthy 15, hello and welcome. Glad to see you. Bossy Truthy 15 says, I'm hungry. Haha. You know what? When I get off of here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat something good. A donut, a chip, something, I don't know if maybe it's the topic, I don't know what it is. After these live chats, Bossy Truthy 15, I'm a healthy eater. Okay. And after I get off, I'm like, what can I eat that's bad? It's probably these topics. Orlando, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome back tonight. AMB, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Kat Sushi, I already said hello to you. Welcome. Good to see you. And thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you. Yeah, you guys are worth the dedication for sure. Ellie Wynn, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Tayan, I'm just going to say that until you correct me. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Okay, let me keep going. Sunflower says she's excited for this one. That's good. Starburst, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Notice the change in my vocal tone when I say Starburst. That's how much I like that name. Joanne Burrows, hello and welcome. And welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. You say my family. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they drain you. Breezy says, and reason I don't talk to my mom and stepdad. Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, hi, hello and welcome. Yeah, good to see you. Jeremy Robinson, good to see you, says, yes, my family. I can think of people who have drained me this week. Yeah. Okay, let me keep moving, guys. Tayan says, Tayan Smith, if I'm saying that beginning name correctly, says, does my 9-year-old count? Yes. Oh my God. The majority of my work is children. I see adults, but I see adults, young adults, middle-aged adults, older adults. But my specialization that I went to school to treat and to really zone in on are children and teens and families. And so, yes, your 9-year-old does count, because after I see my first 9-year-old in therapy, I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes a teenager will come right after a 5-year-old or 6-year-old comes through the door. And I'm like, I am so happy to see you, because, kids drain you, right? They're so cute when they want to be, but they drain you. Fairy Girl, welcome to tonight's live chat. Good to see you. The Retro Woman 80, good to see you tonight. I never see you on here anymore. I feel like you're a stranger. So good to see you. Clandestine Girl 16X, hello, welcome. Glad to see you back. Says, glad I could catch this live. Thank you for all your videos. You're welcome. You're welcome. And glad you could catch this as well. Kat Sushi says, haha, I can relate to running into former classmates. Yes, the terror, right? I'm going to tell you, the older I've gotten, okay, those who may be on here with me that know me personally, don't take this personal. I literally try to avoid everybody that I know. Okay, because I used to be in a rural area practicing psychology where everybody knew everybody. Why? Because only 5 people would go down to the store on the corner. And I was like this, business over here all by myself. But I really and honestly, this is to you, Katsushi, I really and honestly do try to avoid people that I've known before or that work with me or know me or who I'm training or who I'm talking with, because I just can't do it, And I kind of need that mental break so that I can continue to be the me that I am, right? So if I know that you probably go to the Target down the street, I'm going to go to the Target about an hour away because I know that you are not going to be there with me. One time I did that and I was so wrong. I was so wrong. I drove an hour and 45 minutes to go shopping for the entire day with my mom. This was years ago because we needed some things. And I'm like, Mom, let's hit up this store and that store and that store and let's go there. I'm like, let's go to the one at the airport, because the one at the airport, nobody's going to know me. Oh my God. Why did I even say that? I drove an hour and 45 minutes to run into my ex-boss. I ran into an intern that I was training. I ran into 2 clients. I even ran into my neighbor, and I wanted to get in the car and cry because they all ran up to me, they wanted to talk, they wanted to schedule a session or an appointment or a YouTube engagement meeting, a Zoom call. I was just sorry. I was. So, I love the people that I have in my world. And I even love the clients that I have. I really honor them and their lives and what they need. But guys, do I want to always see you at Target? No. Nothing personal. I just don't want to do it. So, Cat Sushi, I know you can relate to that one as well. Most of you can as well. Okay, let me keep going. Kimberly Gladden, hello and welcome. Good to see you live. I never really see you live. It's always a comment. So good to see you. Kimberly Gladden says, I can relate to this so much. My mom is so toxic, critical, and very judgmental and extremely controlling. Yeah, that can be overwhelming, right? My mom used to be the kind of young person, I'll share this with you. She never did it to me, but more so my older sibling. She would say something to him like, why don't you cut your hair anymore? Let's say they didn't see each other for, a couple of months because my brother's always so busy with his wife, his children, his family, his work, the list goes on. And he works in government. So he's like constantly busy, And so my mom finally saw him after so many weeks or months. And she's like, why haven't you cut your hair? That was like the first thing she said to him, as opposed to just being like, son, I missed you. How are you? Right? No, that didn't happen. It was, why didn't you cut your hair last week? Are you wearing that? That's how my mom used to be. So, but yes, I get you, Kimberly Gladden. Okay, let me look at this closely. BLK_NRG. Is it Bilk? NRG. I'm so sorry. I probably mispronounced that. Welcome to tonight's live chat and welcome to the channel. Good to see you. BLK NRG says people can be energy vampires. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. James McDonald says, yep, I have become more introverted as I've gotten older, and my ADHD makes it more difficult for me to be in large groups or crowds for too long. Yes, same here. I gotcha. Large crowds are a mess, right? Bossy Truthy 15 says, now I'm silent. Yeah, yeah. Breezy says, I'm definitely an introvert. Yep. Yeah. Sun and Sunflower says, introverts pick up other energy. It can be so exhausting. The older I get, I try my best to protect myself. Yes, me too, Sun and Sunflowers. Yep. Good point. Good point. Have you ever walked into a public place and you give absolutely nobody eye contact? I used to, because I need my world to shut down. And that means I don't see you. You know, if I see you, that means my world isn't shut down, right? Now I'm thinking, now I'm wondering, now I'm intuitive and I'm picking up. And I don't want to do that sometimes, right? Yes, Orlando, I could be. I am an NIFJ, but there's another one that I am as well, based on Carl Jung's personality test. Would you, okay, tell me if you feel this way, because I'm processing this. If I did a live chat where I could do a mass personality test with you using Carl Jung's method of identifying personality, let me know, because we may do that. I'm thinking of that for a fun live chat. We'll see. Let me know how you feel. But Orlando, yes, I have come up as an INFJ, and I've also come up as I can't think of the other thing that I've come up as. But you hit the nail on the head with that one. Axe to Edge, hello from Barbados. Good to see you. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Okay. Ellie Wynn says, my big brother sucks the life out of me. Yeah. Join the club, Ellie Wynn. Vibe Moss says, hello and welcome, by the way. Good to see you. Says, oh my gosh, cognitive resources is really the right term. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I learned that back in college. And I learned that people can really prevent you from being able to use all of your mental energy. And so the idea was just that, people can really mess with the cognitive things that you have going on in your brain, right? And so cognitive resources really kind of fit that, right? Because you can't process life after you've left the presence of these emotional vampires, because they've taken up so much cognitive energy, right? It just makes you really, really tired. Sandra Browers, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chat and to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Sandra Browers says, strange they don't like boundaries. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Bear with me, guys. M.N. Odell, did I say hello to you? If not, welcome. Good to see you. M.N. Odell says personality disordered people usually don't have the ability to self-regulate. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Ronald Zion. Literally, that was my mom. Literally, that was my mom that just called me on the phone. But guess what? She hung up because she probably dialed the wrong number again. Mom is a mess up there. Ronald Zion, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Good to see you. That's literally my mom calling me again. Poor thing. I love her so much, but she cannot look. You ready for this? Mom, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. She is like going through her phone trying to figure out which one of her kids she's trying to call. And so my number is the one on the top. So that's what she's doing. She's trying to call one of us and she keeps calling me on accident. Okay. That's enough of my mom, because I could talk about her all night long, all the things she's been doing lately. Life with a Lab and more. Hello and welcome back. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Life with a Lab and more says, be careful trying to advise these people. If you do, they will twist what you say to them when relaying your conversation to others. It's to elevate themselves to diminish you. Sometimes Keep in mind, and I'll back you up with this one. Keep in mind that emotional vampires often have personality disorders, or they tend to be very histrionic, meaning that they have this kind of dramatic personality. And wherever they go, they are just a big hurricane, not a tornado, not a rainstorm, not a windstorm. They are a hurricane, and they just plow through, you know? And so if they have that kind of disposition with you, or they carry that kind of energy, they're very histrionic, just know that you can set them off easily. Most likely they tend to experience emotions very intensely, so if it's anger or hurt, you're going to get, you're going to get pretty much a mixed bag from this person, right? So just keep that in mind. And I agree with you, life at the lab and more, that they can be very difficult people to deal with. They can be. That's just who they are. Okay, let me skim through some of this, guys, to get to the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and jump back into the content. The Good Glow, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah. That's so sweet. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you guys. You guys are always here, so thank you so much for that. Yeah. All right, let me keep moving. Anthony, Incognito, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Welcome to tonight's live chat as well. Little Darkness, or Little Dark Stars, excuse me for that. I thought I saw what I thought I saw. Little Dark Stars, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Joan Burrows, sorry guys, my phone is distracting me, says they talk at you, not with you. Oh my God, you're right. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Sometimes they do. I'll say sometimes to be fair. They most definitely do. It's tiring, right? Because you're trying to, it's like you're jumping rope with these people, or doing double dutch, where you're trying to, like, can I jump in? Can I jump in now? And sometimes they're still talking and you're like, okay, this last sentence, and you want to jump in and they're still talking and you're like, oh my God, this is literally a one-sided conversation. You guys know what I'm talking about. Was there, oh, this is rough. Was there cats? I'm going to say that. Forgive me. I'm so sorry, but welcome. It's good to see you and welcome to the channel. I don't remember you. Wizard Cats says, I'm probably mispronouncing that, says, I have a relative who likes to pick fights with me. Good thing she lives away. Yeah. You can have some mental paradise, right? Laura Fitz says, self-centered. If you allow them, they will take not just your time, your life as well. Yes, they are extremely tiring. Yes, they are. Yeah. Thank you, Ronald Zion. I appreciate you for that. Therapists and life coaches need intentional self-care. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Ellie Wen calls them drain holes. Yeah. Anthony Incognito says, I can relate to you 100%. Laura Fit, I'm going to put you right up here, so you know the pain that I go through, Anthony Incognito. Laura Fit, I'm going to put you up here for a second so people can see that, okay? Because we're going to use that as a way to get back into the content, because you're highlighting a personality trait. And self-centeredness is a personality trait that they tend to have. So let's jump in, right, guys? What are the toxic, common behavioral signs that you are dealing with an emotional vampire? I see this, I've experienced this, and even research and psychology points to these things. The first thing is toxic positivity. Toxic positivity. These people are draining. My grandmother, my late grandmother, who passed away in 2020, I talk about her all the time on here. I bring her up every now and then. She was toxic in terms of her positivity. There would be times when I would be very pessimistic, becoming a developing therapist, developing to a therapist. Because when you go to college, you're like, I want to be a therapist. You go to grad school, you're like, I still want to be a therapist, but there's some things I don't like. And then when you graduate and you go into your first internship, you're like, okay, do I really still want to do this? And then you get out of your internship and you go into 3 years of licensing and you're really second guessing all of your decisions, So I was at a place in my life where I'm like, this is the world. There's pedophiles, there's sociopaths, there's mean people, there's cold people, there's angry people, there's arrogant people, there's dark empaths, and I'm going through all these different experiences with people as a therapist. And I go to my grandmother, I sit at her dining room table because that's how we used to do it as a family. We would just go to her house, show up unannounced, and go sit and talk to grandma. And she would sell Avon, and she would have her church members that would come over and talk to her. And so, she would be doing her thing. I'd stop over, they would leave, and then I would sit and try to talk to my grandmother. And the first thing she would say to me is, the good Lord will help you through all of this. And I would say, yes, Gaga, I know, but I'm praying, I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm sad. I can't believe children are being abused. And I can't believe people are sociopaths and cold. And she's like, well, you chose this field. So, you really have to put on a smile. And everything I would say, you guys can probably relate to this. Everything that I would say, she would put a positive twist on it. And at a certain place, I remember thinking, oh my God, conversations with you are never going to happen again, because everything that she would do would be toxic. Because why? It's toxic positivity. We can also look at the personality, I'm going to say personality trait of pessimism. It can really become a personality trait, as well as toxic positivity. So research suggests that people who are very pessimistic can sometimes be emotional vampires. Why? Because they're complaining about everything. They suck the life out of things for you, right? That's different, though. Let me say, for those of you who are like me, I can be a complainer, I can be pessimistic, but that's only when I'm given good reason. Okay, if I see something terribly wrong, I'm sorry, I'm going to complain. If I don't like you, I'm just going to be honest and say I don't like you for a reason. And I usually like people, but for some reason I don't click with you, and there's a reason for that. That may seem pessimistic, but it's real. So a lot of you may be saying the same thing. Well, wait a minute, I'm pessimistic sometimes. I'm a complainer. That's okay, as long as it's authentic, as long as it's warranted. But there are some people who are pessimistic without a real reason to be. They look around for reasons to become pessimistic, right? And so those kind of individuals can be emotional vampires. In addition to that, these emotional vampires often draw drama and chaos. Remember, I said they tend to be very histrionic. They guilt trip. They do that all the time. I can't believe you said that to him. I can't believe you did A, B, and C. That's how they get you. They drain the life out of you through guilt tripping you and really putting burdens on you, right? They trauma dump sometimes. That's a term everybody uses nowadays. They take all of their trauma, their thoughts, their feelings, and they dump it on you and say, whew, I feel so much better now. Thanks for talking to me. And they walk away, or they say, I'll text you tomorrow, I'll email you tomorrow, right? They just left you with a burden. These individuals often engage in one-sided conversation. Somebody in the chat box said it earlier. They have poor emotional boundaries. Somebody said that earlier as well. They tend to be very emotionally dysregulated. That's just who they are. That's why they drain and suck the energy out of you. Their ears are closed, meaning they don't hear you. They don't engage in active listening. They listen to respond. They listen to get what they want to get out of it. They listen to be nebby. They listen to get information from you, right? So they can take it and run it over there to Bobby and gossip about you tomorrow night, So their ears are turned off. Their ears are closed. They tend to be envious, angry, and hostile. They have really intense emotions. And that's what drains the life out of you, because they're housing these negative things on the inside of them. And they often internalize. They don't get out their emotions, right? So they kind of implode, and then they share it and spread it. And that can drain the life out of you, right? Even your very best friend who you love and admire and respect can be an emotional vampire. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a negative relationship with them, Some people just have a lot of self-investment. They're very egotistical. They want to talk about themselves all the time. They want to talk about what they thought and what they felt and what their behaviors are, rather than say, I'm just having a really bad week. I don't like anybody I've come across. The world's a cold place. How's your week been? And actually listens to hear what you want to say. They don't do that because they are self-invested. It's all about them, right? They are called what one of my colleagues once called pot stirrers. They like to stir the pot. and get things going and keep things going over time. And that energy kind of gets, what's the word, spread amongst outsiders or people that are all around them. And the sad part about that is they just drain the life out of you because of that, you know? They also tend to be very ingenuine and authentic. I don't know about you, but people who are not authentic and genuine, even when they're crying, even when they're hurting, I can't deal with you, because there's a fakeness that's there. There's a falseness there that puts a barrier between my emotions, my thoughts and feelings, and yours. And so that's hard for me to fake being concerned about you when you are clearly unauthentic and fake, you know? And so those individuals can drain the life out of you. Just fake people, always smiling, always laughing, always trying to be the center of attention, right, guys? You know, always talking loud and being boisterous. That's the word I'm looking for, and flamboyant. All of that can drain the life out of you. So what does research say? Let's jump into this just briefly, and I'm going to go back to the chat box in a minute, and then we're going to go to how this impacts you and what's wrong here, what's going on, and then we're going to wrap up. So the research suggests that emotions, because they are innate, they come from within. You know, we tend to often mirror emotions because they are innate. We have, what I said earlier, mirror neurons. And so if you have somebody who's angry in front of you, if you have somebody who's irritable in front of you, and you're listening to them rant, you know, or, you know, your dad over there is, you know, really showing you with his facial expressions and his nonverbal communication and his body language that he doesn't approve of you, you're going to pick up on that, right? So emotions are innate. They get spread around, right? We often mirror those emotions, right? And then sometimes we also take on those emotions through facial mimicry. We start to look like that person. The other piece of research is a model. A model is really something that starts with a theory. And the model kind of gives us different ways. You know, think of an umbrella. It's the theory. There's a theory of pessimism. There's a theory of dramatic people. There's a theory of personality development. And under that umbrella are all the different ways that we kind of think of this specific thing. So there's a model. It's a paradigm that is called the similarity-attraction paradigm. The similarity-attraction paradigm. And really what this is saying is this, that people experience both emotions and information. We kind of experience cognitions and emotions concurrently or at the same time. And we tend to be very drawn to people who have our similar thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and experiences. And so if that emotional vampire is your best friend, somewhere you probably relate to her. And that's what has drawn you together as friends. Maybe your brother or your sister are emotional vampires, and every time you have a conversation with them, they just drain the life out of you. But if you delve beneath the surface, you may find, you know, primarily this model called the similarity-attraction model. You know, if you go by what it says, you may find that somewhere you're drawn to your sibling even more sometimes because you do have similar ways that you think and you feel. And believe it or not, having that similar way that you think or feel can also drain you because you have such similar emotions. You have such similar thoughts and behaviors that sometimes it's like watching yourself on TV. And that can drain you, you know? And of course, research suggests that we tend to be, you know, very perceptive as human beings. And so facial mimicry is something that we do more than we think we do, you know? We're watching a soap opera on TV, for example, or a commercial or the news, you know, and your face can hold the emotion that you are holding inside or some of the emotions that you are watching on the news, right? Sometimes I can look at my brother and I could see that something's going on because of his affect, because of his facial expression. And I'll say, "What's wrong, Ryan?" You know? And he'll say, "Well, you know, that kind of reminded me of, you know, A, B, and C. And I'll say, oh, I see. That's why you look so shocked for a minute. Like your face was just, he's like, yeah, that's why, you know? So that facial mimicry, according to research in psychology, is really important to understand, because sometimes our face then transmits to our actual internal feeling. And we can sometimes take on an emotional piece of the puzzle, or we can take on an emotion just because of our face holding a particular position or a certain level of stress, right? And that's kind of interesting, right? Because maybe you didn't want to cry a couple of minutes ago, but now you want to cry because your face is saying, I want to cry. And so you may feel your emotions following your affect, you know? That's why sometimes when therapists see clients, there's often a part of our paperwork where we have to talk about mood. We have to talk about facial expressions, which is affect. We have to talk about nonverbal communication, because all of that goes together. If a client or patient comes in to see me, the first thing I'm looking for is affect, right? Facial expression. I need to know what's going on here. Were you looking sad in the waiting room? Were you smiling and having a good time? Were you looking preoccupied in your thoughts, right? And if so, what does that say about your mood? What does that say about your emotions? What does that say about your train of thought? And so really paying attention to your face and other people's faces can be very life-changing, I think, because you can protect yourself from somebody that's not in a good mood, right? And you can also protect yourself from falling prey to emotion contagion as well. Okay, let me go to the chat box and see what you guys are saying so far. I'm going to give you the rest of the content, and then we're going to wrap up. I literally have to leave at 8:30. Don One, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Says, this is where I get answers. Oh my goodness, that's so sweet of you. Thank you, Tamara. You're welcome. And that's really humbling and touching, because what person doesn't want to be an open door for somebody to get knowledge and truth and hope, and right? So thank you for saying that. And I'm so glad that's your experience. Really glad. Ashika Whitaker, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Welcome back tonight. SH, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says caregiver burnout is real. I don't know how you do it. Thank you so much. Lots of prayer, lots of love from my mom, lots of closeness from my siblings. Both of my brothers are supportive when they can be. I'll put it that way. They're watching, so I have to say something about them. Okay. Celeste, I'm going to say that. Hello and welcome. Good to see you, and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Celeste says, I had to step back from a friend recently for this reason. Absolutely. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. I literally ran in from the office, ran upstairs and said, hello, Mom. Hello, Ryan, and came back downstairs. And I saw my mom and my brother Ryan looking at me like, are you okay? I literally had 5 minutes before I had to get on here. Thank you, Cobb. That's what that reminds me of. But T.Y. Cobb, hello and welcome. Good to see you. And I like that. They're cut off, no refunds. I really don't blame you for that. Jeremy Robinson says, sounds like my mom. She would constantly complain about everything from my stepfather to my siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? Can you feel when she's talking about all of them? Can you feel yourself just being like pulled in, and you're, just kind of like, oh my God, here we go again. Sometimes I feel myself being pulled in with people like neighbors and friends and coworkers, and they're trying to talk to me about something. And I just feel myself slowly being pulled in, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm literally fighting within myself to stop the conversation, say, have a good night. I'll see you next time. Right. There's a little bit of an art to this whole process of getting away from emotional vampires. We may get into that at some point. Give it a think. Hello. Always glad to see you. Welcome back tonight. Mark Lee, good to see you. Welcome back. Mark Lee says, I'd like to know more about the ways a brain wires up in early childhood. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that at some point. I think that's important, because that early wiring of the brain sets the stage for years after, right? Chill Mail, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back. Good to see you. Says, hop in the car and ride out to New York City and bless the city with your grace and face. Ah, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know what? Sometimes we all need to do that, right? Like jump in the car and go. Last year, I did a really interesting symposium. It was the Psychotherapy Network symposium in DC, and I was able to not only meet up with some awesome coworkers, but also kind of peek in when I had enough time from doing my own, work stuff at the symposium to go see. Lindsay Gibson, the author of Adult Children of Emotionally Detached Parents. I was able to peek my head in and see Dr. Ramani talking about certain things regarding narcissists. I was able to sit on the steps outside of the hotel and just look at DC and all the traffic and how bad the drivers are there. So you're right. Sometimes you just need to get in your car and go. And I did, I knew the symposium was coming up and I was registered and ready to go. And 2 days before the event, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and do that 3-hour drive and just kind of stop a few places, look at some of the scenery, take my time, And so you're right. Sometimes, getting in the car and going to some place somewhere is very refreshing, right? And it can get you away from those emotional vampires. Also, going to things like symposiums and support groups and, group therapy events, art, exhibits, all of that stuff can kind of remove you from the people who are emotional vampires and put you in contact with people that actually feed you and build you and give you energy. The Good Glow says, took my mother to exchange her sneakers that I purchased for her birthday. She was so rude to the salesperson, so I told her to take it easy. She walked away mumbling like a 2-year-old, never satisfied. Wow. That's really difficult. And that's noble of you to say, hey, mom, take it easy, And sometimes we have to be that for our parents. But my God, it's like a little grace and gratitude would just kind of, bring you down in your anger a little bit and help you communicate in a better, more mature way, you know? Actually Jovial. Wow. Hello. And welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Jovial says, thanks for this platform. You're welcome. And thank you for saying that. Neighbors. Yes. My neighbor follows me around my apartment, taunting me with footsteps, hitting my exact location every time. Don't you hate that? Yeah. I have clients who complain about that happening. It's not a good experience. I'm so sorry. That's kind of like picking, if you will, right? It's trying to stir things. I don't like people like that. They're troublemakers. They have nothing better to do with their time. Bossy Truthy 15 says, trying to figure it out. Ambivert means someone who possesses traits of both extroversion and introversion. Yeah. Yeah. I think my mom is both. I think she is an ambivert, if I'm saying that correctly. She's extroverted. She's the woman who used to, before she got her stroke, she would be the woman who would go to Walmart and somehow end up at the deli section. Those of you who have been with me, you know the story. She would end up at the deli section. And next thing I know, she's doing a whole church revival. Okay. With the whole deli section. And I'm like coming from, aisles over because I just want to get the heck out of there because I can't stand the crowd of Walmart. And so I'm like grabbing things, here, we need this. I need this. Oh, I need that bath oil. And I'm like, Mom, let's get the heck out of here. I put everything in the cart. Okay. I'm just really trying to make you guys laugh. But, sometimes that's how I feel going to Walmart. Okay. I feel like I'm just like trying to get the heck out of there the minute I step in to get a cart. And so my mom is like at the deli section and I'm looking at her and she's got like 5 or 6 people holding her hand, praying, talking about their problems. And I'm like, Mom, really? I should have came to Walmart with you tonight. So, I mean, my mom is very extroverted, but is she the woman who doesn't want to deal with the sun during the day and would rather come out at night because she doesn't want to see the sun and she doesn't want to see people? Yes. So I think you're right. It is an ambivert. They're kind of a little bit of the, a mixture of both. Whew. I don't know. I can't do both. I can't. I'm sorry. I can come across as extroverted, but I am not an ambivert. Is that, I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Starbear says, comfort food after these talks are essential for me. A cake or chips or something, it helps. Yeah, doesn't it? Absolutely. Dr. Right Life Truth Teller, hello and welcome. Glad to see you back in the chat. Dr. Right Life Truth Teller says we do appreciate the live interaction. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. That's why I do them. Okay, let's keep moving, guys. Chill Mail, I'm going to put your question up there for people. It used to be both for me before I became a therapist. When, teenager, oh man, I was hiding from the world and hiding the world from me. Go figure, right? Chill Mail, that's kind of deep. Miss Janine MacArthur, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Janine MacArthur says, hi, Tamara. I can relate to getting away to shop and break away on vacation. Me time. I love your channel. Thank you so much. And I'm always glad to see you. Welcome. Emin Odell says, sometimes you just don't have the bandwidth to deal with other people's emotion. That's so succinctly said. That's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. Okay, let me go back up here for a second. Q Quit Award 1. Hello and welcome. Happy Friday to you. Good to see you. Okay, got to get through this. Next section of chats with you guys here. Clandestine Girl 16X says, when I go out into the public for shopping, I wear a baseball hat. Right, me too. And big sunglasses to hide from people I know. Yes, I am in INFJ 2, allegedly. Yeah. My kind of thing. I do the same thing. Ronald Zion says, I like Carl Jung. Yes, good. Zandra 2212. Hello, welcome. Good to see you back. Okay, bear with me. Franciophile Poutine says, how much of this is actually has a spiritual component? Some people like you maybe actually have a gift or a curse of being overly sensitive to different energies. Birthstones might have a role. Oh, that's so wisely said. I agree. Yeah, my mom, my aunt, my longtime career mentor used to say the same thing to me. And I really do think there is a major spiritual component to this, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to bring it up tonight. I wanted to kind of keep things a little separate from that, just a little bit. But I think you're right. There's a lot of spiritual component to this. Remember, I said at the very beginning, we're brains communicating with brains, we're spirits communicating with spirits, and we're also personalities communicating with personalities. There's nothing physical there. If you think about it, brain, spirit, personality, right? There's nothing tangible there. So I very much agree that there is a spiritual component. And thank you for saying that. A lot of people say that over the years growing up, a lot of people have told me you do have a gift of communicating, connecting with people, understanding people, seeing people, and that really can be a curse and a blessing at the same time, right? And a lot of you watching probably have a gift of some sort in the same way. And so that's why this is so very hard for you. Actually, Jovio, you just switched up your screen photo. Okay, unless I'm losing it. I don't think I am. Actually, Jovio says, the way trauma affects the hippocampus is absolutely amazing. I noticed it in myself. Yeah. Remember the amygdala, that almond-sized structure I talked about earlier? It's directly connected to the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is a part of the brain that kind of, cements the context of a memory to you. The amygdala says, this is what's happening. You ran into your long lost cousin that you went no contact with years ago because she drains the life out of you. Remember how you felt. Okay. The hippocampus kicks in and says, you know what? Let me also add context. It was during the Christmas of 1999 and you were getting ready to get married and you had red shoes on, and it adds all the context. So the hippocampus mixed with the amygdala can be really impactful, and it can be draining all at the same time because it hits you sometimes. If you have PTSD, those flashbacks and those dreams and those memories hit you so hard, it feels like you're back there. Blame the amygdala and the hippocampus for that. Georgiette Gray, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. I'm literally 4 minutes behind, so we're going to jump in. Kiki B, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says, I am an INFJ2. That's amazing. Maybe that's why we all get along on the platform. Is it Tamara or Tamira? Joseph, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. Glad to have you. Okay. One more comment. I'm getting back into the content. Nobody, hello. Good to see you. Welcome back. RB, you're my last comment. We're going to go back to the content and then we're going to wrap up. Welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. RB says, I had to cut my aunt off today on the phone. She doesn't understand how to reciprocate in conversation. She just wants to dump all of her toxicity on you and you can't get a word in. Yes. Oh my God. It's tiring, right? It's tiring. And you can feel it happening in the moment. You know, you feel yourself just one notch, another notch, another notch, and another notch, you know? And sometimes, you know, when I feel that, I know something's happening between me and that other person, even if we can't see it, right? Orlando says, yes, please do a video on Myers-Briggs personality test. Ooh, I don't know if I can ethically do that in a mass way. We'll have to see. I'm going to think about it for sure. Raymond Vincent Garcia Jr., hello, welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. All right, let's get back into the content. So what's wrong here? What are we doing wrong? What's the impact, you know? Here's what I think, and this is what some of the research has said. So this is actually backed by research as well, that you have the ability to align with these individuals and their experience. You have the ability to align with these individuals and their experience, meaning if somebody's coming to you because they're feeling suicidal, you have the ability to align with them. Somebody comes to you and they're angry. Somebody comes to you and they've been abused as a child. Somebody comes to you because they've had a really hard time in life and life is hard and they just need somebody to talk to. You can align with them. And what does that do to you? It hurts you. It brings you down a few notches. It takes the energy out of you because you almost, in a way, and I go through this with clients, you almost over align with them, right? And sometimes that's a boundary issue. And that's not necessarily a problem if you can identify it and then pull your boundary back, right? The last thing you want to do is lose the boundary and become so overly emotional with the other person that you lose your ability to be objective, to be separate, right? To not align so much. And I think that comes with maturity, right? You can be there for somebody and care about them and help them without breaking yourself down. But I think a lot of us, we tend to align so much, and that's a good thing, with people who are not doing well or angry or having some intense emotion, but little do we know that's draining the life out of us. So that's one thing. The other thing is poor boundaries, right? Is your boundary healthy? Is it rigid? Is it porous? Porous means your boundary is flexible. It's constantly moving, right? This person is sad. You're going to change your views to meet their needs. That person is angry. Now you're going to change what you really think, right? And so porous boundaries can be so up and down that it's really hard to put that barrier up when you need to, right? And then other times you can be so rigid in your boundary that other people's conversations drains you because you're not really engaging. You're not really being emotional with them. You're not really being authentic. And so you're kind of putting up this facade to protect yourself. And that is tiring in and of itself, right? The other thing is increased stress levels. I said this earlier. Being around individuals who are emotional vampires, they increase your cortisol, which then kicks off fight or flight mode. And there you are in sympathetic nervous system arousal, right? You're in that gas pedal mode, and it's really hard to get out of it, right? There may also be an inability to be mindful and reflective on your part. And even with me, I'm in here too, because when you're dealing with other people, if you can't walk away and ask yourself, what was I thinking and feeling and doing in that exchange? And what does it all mean? Then you're not able to reflect and be mindful. And when you can reflect and become mindful, what happens? You can then look back and say, you know what? That person drained me, and I'm never going to talk to them again. That person drained the life out of me. I am no longer hopeful like I was before I talked to that person. And so you kind of have to be mindful and reflect, right? And so there's an inability to do that. That's the impact. There's an inability to be mindful and reflective with emotional vampires. And so sometimes you miss somewhere in your communication that you're not a good mix. The communication, something's wrong here and it needs to change. You may also experience social exhaustion. Being around emotional vampires, it's socially exhausting. So you're going to walk away feeling very tired, very drained. If you're around a whole group of fake people, for example, inauthentic people, ingenuine people, that can drain the life out of you, right? Because we're not really engaging, we're not really connecting, right? We're just communicating, and ideas are bouncing off of me and you. And there's nothing really to that. And that can be very draining, right? There may also be a poor mind body connection with you too at times, right? And I've been here, we're talking to an emotional vampire and we're not connecting that what's going on in here is draining what's going on in here. What's going on in our brain is draining what's going on in our heart, which is then draining our soul, and our body feels tense. So there may be a poor mind body connection that we have to kind of strengthen like you would a muscle. And some of these people are just strictly too close for comfort, right? They're just too close. They're too in our business. They're too wanting to know what's going on, right? The neighbors know too much. The cousin knows too much. And maybe they come to you to get the scoop, or maybe they're yapping at you all the time or texting you, right? And that can all be draining as well. And lastly, in this category, there may be an inability to disengage when you need to. I've been there in the past, personally and professionally. No longer, but in my 20s, my early 30s, I really did feel like I didn't have the ability to disengage. And so if you walk away from somebody who's draining the life out of you, you know that something is up, right? And it's either that person's energy that has then been I can say come over you, I'll say that instead, or has taken over your mind and your space, right? That's what's happening. Or you can go away from this emotional vampire and ask yourself, what just happened there and why am I feeling this way, so that you can later disengage, right? So having an inability to disengage can also be a lifelong impact on you, because you have to know how to disengage from them, right? I'm going to talk more just a little bit in tomorrow's live chat about this. Join me tomorrow live. I'm going to be talking about the psychology of a broken family and what that does to you, what a broken family looks like, how that can drain you, how that can really take a toll on your mind and your body over time. So join me in tomorrow's live chat. What do you think of this, guys? Emotional vampires. I know you've had experiences with them. I know I have. It's draining, right? Let me also say briefly before I go to the chat box and quickly wrap up here, let me also say emotional vampires can also drain you over text. So don't think because it's an email, a text, Snapchat, Instagram, that the emotional vampire can't take over your mind, your heart, and your soul, because they most certainly can, That is, to me, even the more draining, because they're constantly hitting you with messages, right? You know what that's like. It's draining. It's tiring. Nobody, thank you so much for that. Says you're great, Tamara, so wonderful. Thank you so much. And all of you are great too. So I'm really blessed to have you on the channel. DJ, I'm going to say hello to you. Hello. Not sure what we're talking about, but I did want to say hello to you. Janong, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Okay, Alicia. It's either Alicia or Alicia. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Talking to Bossy Truthy, I wanted to welcome you. Don't worry about your typos. I saw that other comment. Raymond Vincent Garcia says, after a conversation with the night creatures, I feel burnt out for a couple of days. Yeah, don't you? And it can be a couple of days. Woo. Yeah. NGO, hello, welcome. Good to see you tonight. Actually, Jovial says, oh my God, yes, the toxic positivity, and it's so fake. I know the difference. It's almost like a mask, isn't it? Sometimes it's a mask. Sometimes it's hiding from themselves, right? And sometimes it's hiding from their own internal emotions. They don't want you to know what they're feeling, you know? So yeah, that toxic positivity is something else. Okay. Yeah, Sun and Sunflowers agrees. So toxic positivity is the worst. The worst. I'm gonna post because I have to leave. When I come back tonight, I'm gonna look at all of your comments and go back through the chat box and all of that. I'm gonna post my video in the comment section. I'm gonna pin it. It's a video that I did years ago on toxic positivity. You're gonna want to see that. You're gonna want to see that. Because there's a lot of information in that video of what's going on there. There's a problem for sure. NGO says, I can relate, Tamara. Yep. Give It a Think says, I did not understand about how not to be toxic for a long time. I did not know another way, but eventually, I figured it out. Enough kind people showed me about validation. Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Dennis Robinson, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Says, this is very normal. Most operate in families. Yep. You are right. I agree. Miguel Chips Intelligent. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Welcome back. James McDonald says toxic positivity would be an interesting topic to cover. I already did in a video, but we can always do a live chat. Let me know in the chat box, guys, if you want me to do a live chat on toxic positivity. Let me know. Depends on how many yeses. I really have to look at this because this is in my backyard. Why? I should have known, huh? Darn. Give me 1 second, guys, okay? I am trying to respond to an alarm. And this is just how life goes in my life. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I hate that I have to pause for a second. Forgive me. I gotta, okay. All right, guys. Let me know if you want to do toxic positive, if you want me to do a live chat on toxic positivity. And I will bring that next live chat. So let me know in the chat box, okay? All right, let me keep going, guys. Oh goodness, what just happened here? Okay, all right, let me keep looking at these comments. And it's always something when I'm on here. And Murr, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. I get you. You say your mother-in-law is a vampire? Yep. I totally get it. RB, thank you so much for that. How do you even say this? Scipio Africanus, hello. And so glad this is helpful. You're welcome. And thank you for that. I appreciate you. Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. Okay, that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to hit the wrong button and set off my alarm system again. All right, Little Dark Star says, I love that term, trauma dump. I know a lot of people do. And unfortunately, it's overused. So the impact of it doesn't seem as big, but it's a big impact. It is a big impact. It can take the life out of you, right? Kathleen Dill, hello and welcome. One more comment before we say goodnight, guys. Daryl Harris, much love back to you and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. For those of you I didn't get a chance to talk to, read your comment. If you gave a super chat, know that I see you, I hear you. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of you tonight. Tomorrow, come join me. Let me know in the chat box about toxic positivity. Tomorrow, we're talking about the psychology of broken families. So I look forward to seeing all of you guys then, or at least those of you who can come and who can make it. I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a safe one. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.